Good fucking morning, you beautiful people. Hope you're having a great day. I am so far. Just crushed an upper day. Love upper, it's my favorite day, surprise, surprise. But today I want to talk about reverse dieting, how you come out of a cut, because that's the part that most people fuck up. That is, you just lost all this weight, you don't want to gain it back. That's the last thing that you want to do. However, there's plenty of literature that shows that's what most people do, is they put the weight right back on. That's why you have a lot of, dumb people trying to sell you supplements and shit saying that, oh, diets don't work. There's no reason to diet because you're just gonna put the weight back on. Buy my pill instead. And that's not true. It's just that most people who diet go into it, first of all, they're dieting incorrectly. And so they're probably losing a lot of lean mass. When you're losing lean mass, that's the most metabolically active tissue that you have. So your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, basically the calories that it takes to keep the lights on to just run your body are lower. So when you go back into maintenance, then your calories that you have to maintain your body are a lot lower. They're already going to be lower because you're a smaller human, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people also go into diets without knowing what their maintenance is. So when they come out of the diet, they just eat willy-nilly. You're not going to do that. You are going to be smart because I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know. So you've just lost all your weight. You want to come out of your deficit. What do you do? Well, first you need to find out what is your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. So how do you do that? Well, you know that it's going to be a little bit lower than your maintenance. So first of all, you should already know what your maintenance was before you lost the weight. If you don't, if you're already in this situation, you don't know what your maintenance was, then you can guess, you can calculate it from how much weight you were losing, but you could just use an online calculator and get pretty close. So you can either jump right back to maintenance, or you can reverse diet. For 99.9% of people, I recommend reverse dieting. It is a lot easier and a lot safer and a lot better on the psychological side of things. Your mind is not going to like the fact that you're going to gain weight when you go back to maintenance. You are going to. Each gram, you're depleted of water, you're depleted of glycogen, and every gram of glycogen binds to about 3 to 4 grams of water. So you're going to put on some weight when you go back. And the good news is you kind of already know how much you're going to put back on, because it's going to be however much weight you lost when you first started in that first week or so. Because I'm sure if you've done a diet, you know in that first week, you're going to lose anywhere from 2 to upwards of 10, sometimes 12 pounds of water. And that's based on a lot of things, mainly genetics. For myself, as example, I've done multiple deficits, and so I know my body. I usually will lose 8 to sometimes 10 pounds of water weight in that first week. It's literally impossible to lose 10 pounds of fat in a week. It's not impossible, but for me, at the deficit that I'm at, there's no fucking way that I lost 10 pounds of fat mass. That's just not what happened. It was water, and I know that because, well, first of all, yeah, like I said, it's impossible. But second, that's what I've done every single time that I go into a deficit, and every time I come back out of a deficit, I gain that 8-10 pounds back. It's normally around 8. This time it was 10, but I am a larger human now with a lot more muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have, the more glycogen you're gonna store. So you are going to gain some weight back, and that's okay, that's normal, that's healthy. However, psychologically, that hurts because you've been used to, for the last 3, 6, 12 months, you've been seeing that scale go down fairly consistently. And psychologically, that's going to fucking hurt when you see that thing go back up, because you're like, I just lost all this weight. I don't want to see it go back up. But you have to be okay and go into it knowing that it's going to come back up at least a little bit of water and glycogen, and that's totally fine. So it's going to go up a little bit, but if you jump right back to maintenance, you have, first of all, you probably don't know what your new maintenance is, and any calculation that you do is going to be just a guess. And I will also say that you need to take adaptive thermoreduction into account. What is adaptive thermoreduction? It's often miscoined as adaptive thermogenesis. It's a small semantics thing, but so it doesn't really matter. It's essentially just your reduction in resting metabolic rate. So you can think of it as a decrease in your metabolism that happens, that is attributed, that's more than what you would attribute to a loss in lean tissue. Now, if you dieted correctly, you shouldn't have lost any tissue. In fact, you should have gained some muscle, especially if you had a lot of weight to lose or a lot of fat to lose. So if you had a lot of fat to lose, you should have gained muscle. You should have at least maintained it. Most people aren't getting so lean to the point where they are going to lose muscle. If you're getting lean as fuck, like sub 10%, you're probably going to lose at least a little bit of lean tissue, especially if you're natural. If you're natural, yeah. But you're going to have adaptive thermogenesis, which is essentially just downregulated metabolism. So whatever you think your maintenance is going to be, subtract about 200 or 300 from that just to start. And now that you know what your TDEE is, that's what you're going to try and work back up to. So let's just say, for example, you at the end of your diet are eating 1,800 calories every day, and you're like, okay, this Sunday, most people start and end things on a Monday just for the psychological effect of it. So you're going to say, okay, Sunday is the last day of my diet. Monday is I'm going to end the diet. Or Sunday's the end of the diet, Monday is the start of maintenance. So how do you do that? Well, you're going to increase your calories slowly. You're going to reverse diet out. Like I said, I don't recommend trying to jump to your new maintenance unless you already are super, super lean. Reverse dieting, you might even lose a little bit more weight if you reverse diet. You should, actually. But when you reverse diet, you're just going to increase the calories very slowly, week by week, depending on how long you want to reverse diet for. I don't recommend reverse dieting for very long. This should not be a 2-month process. You should increase your calories by 10 to 20% each week, mainly just depending on how comfortable you are. So if you're at 1,800 calories at the end of your deficit and you want to be on the conservative side, I would say increase it by a larger amount at the beginning of the reverse diet and then taper it off. So I would always recommend increasing it by 20% on that first week. So 20% of 1,800 is going to be 360 calories. So add that in, and we're at 2,160. Now you eat at 2,160 for a week, and you see what happens. Like I said, remember, you're going to gain some weight, and that is okay. You can say it with me now. It is not fat. It's not fat. It's just glycogen and water. Remember, 1 gram glycogen, 3 to 4 grams of water. And this is a good thing, because now you're not fucking dying. Your body is not going to hate you as much anymore. You are going to start performing better in the gym. And that's what we want. We don't want to always be in a deficit. Sorry, I'm still kind of fucking sick. It's really annoying. I've been sick for like 4 days. Just stupid ass head cold. But increase by 20% that first week. See what happens. See how much weight you gain. Now, if it's an egregious amount, more so, you're going to use how much weight you lost in the first week of your deficit as sort of a gauge. So for me, like I said, 8 to 10 pounds. If I gain anywhere under 8 to 10 pounds, then I'm chilling. I'm good. A lot of people, most people, I would say, from my experience as a coach, it's about 2 to 5. So you put back on 2 to 5 pounds in this first week, then at that point, like I like this 20% mark because you can keep it there for the first 2 weeks. You don't, when you're freshly coming out of a deficit, a lot of shit is, your body is kind of in shock. Your hormones are all out of whack. And this is the main reason people gain weight back, is because your hunger signaling, your satiety signaling, everything is fucked up. Leptin, ghrelin, GLP, insulin even, all of your hormones, and your body hates you because it thinks that you've been starving for a while. So when you go back, you're going to always be hungry, and this depends on how long you've been dieting and how aggressive you were doing it for, is how fucked up your hormones are going to be. If you were in an aggressive deficit for a long time, which I do not recommend doing, but if you were, then you are going to be extremely hungry and you're going to never feel full. That is the main reason why people always gain the weight back, is because their hormones are all fucked up and they go out of this and they don't have a plan. You have a plan. We're gonna keep going over it. So your hormones are fucked up and your body is just in a weird state. So that first week is kind of unreliable. So I would keep your calories at that same amount, that same 20% bump. So that's 1 week, you've bumped your calories 2160. You're at that for 1 week. See how your body reacts. Do that for another week. Now at this point, you should be starting to taper. You might even see the weight loss. You might see the weight loss go, you might be losing weight. I guess I should have clarified this. So if you still are losing weight at that 2160 on that first week, then you need to bump your calories again. Bump them again. This is where I say do 10%. So another 10% from 2160 is 216. Yeah, 216. So now we're at 2276. 2276. And 2376. Sorry, math is hard. And now that you're at that point, you're gonna do that for another week. And if you're still losing weight, you bump it another 10%. And depending on how much weight you're still losing, right? If that first week, if you still lose a decent amount of weight, then bump it 20. This is all very subjective, and this is why having a coach is very important, because they can actually guide you through this process and help you out with that psychological factor. But on the flip side, if you gain weight on that first 20% increase, then stick with it for another week and see what happens. If you start to level off, taper a little bit, you can add in another 10%. And this is where you're just testing the waters. You're seeing, where the fuck is my new maintenance? And you can fix the adaptive thermal reduction that we were talking about by just simply eating at maintenance. That's how you get out of it. That's how you repair your metabolism. Because everyone says that, oh, your metabolism's broken. It's not broken, it's just down-regulated. And you also are probably moving around less. You have a reduction in NEAT. And then reduction in NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, things like fidgeting, moving around, shit like that, that can be usually around 200 to 300 calories. So you add that on to adaptive thermogenesis, your total TDEE might be down-regulated up to like 600 calories. And you need time at maintenance for this to come back. So just slowly increase the calories, and you're slowly, this decrease in NEAT, it happens subconsciously, by the way. You can try to combat it by maintaining a step count, which is what I would recommend, but a step count isn't going to capture all of NEAT, because NEAT is everything. It's head movements, it's waving your hands around, it's bouncing your leg, it's just every little bit of movement that you do that's not activity, and your body is going to subconsciously reduce that. So a step count isn't going to capture all of it. It's going to capture a lot of it, and it's good to always be thinking about trying to keep your steps up. But you also need to be consciously aware of, how can I get in more movement? How can I get in more activity and burn more calories? Because you know that when you're not thinking about it, your body is trying to get you to move less. And as your NEAT starts increasing again, as your metabolism, your RMR starts going back up, this is where you can start tapering things. Keep it to that 10 to 20%, raise it every week, and just adjust as accordingly. Your maintenance is a range. It should be about 3-ish, 2 to 3% of body weight change. So let's say for me,
I like to maintain around 200 to 210 pounds. That's normally a good weight for me. That's where I'm normally pretty lean around that, and I feel good. So I would, for me, eating at maintenance, anywhere from around 207 to 213, 214, 206 to 214, we'll say. That's a good range. That's probably a good maintenance to have. You don't want to be so focused in on the scale that, oh, I need to be 210 pounds at the end of every single week. No, that's bad. That's going to be terrible for your psyche. And the thing with maintenance is it's going to change. Your metabolism, your RMR, is going to increase as your NEAT and as your reductions in adaptive thermoreduction happen. So this is where it's actually adaptive thermogenesis, because it's an increase in your energy output. So that is my yap session on reverse dieting. Put simply, you end your cut, your hormones are all kinds of fucked up. You have adaptive thermal reduction, and your NEAT is decreased subconsciously. So you're going to increase your calories 20% the first week, see what the fuck happens. If you're still losing weight, bump it another 10%. If you maintain, still bump it another 10%. Why? Because of what we said. Your NEAT is going to slowly increase, and your adaptive thermogenesis is going to start to kick in or reduce. And then from there, you just play it by ear. You see how things are going, you see how your weight is doing, and you just try to maintain. The main thing here that you need to be focused on is how your body looks. Your weight is going to be very deceptive at this point, because you're filling back up with glycogen and you're filling back up with water. So keep logs. This is why it's so important to take progress pictures, and also have a coach, because you need that objective third party to look at your progress pictures and tell you what the fuck is going on, because your own eyes are going to deceive you and lie to you. Anyways, that's my yap for the day. Hope y'all have a great one. Don't get fat if you already lost the weight.